Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to the thrilling Vaughn Manor, where Roger and I have returned for a weekend reading report, our weekend reading report. But there isn't really all that much to report this week. So it's just like, well, it's a video of thrilling adventure. Yes, it's a Saturday video of adventure because I'm putting this out a day early, because I'm not going to have time to do one for Sunday. So here you go. A Saturday video of adventure, which is really my weekend reading report where I don't have much to report. But that's okay. We're going to, we'll blab for 20 minutes anyway, the way we always do. So, this past week was a little too full of adventure. Sometimes I have weeks where just too much goes on. And this past week was one of those weeks where there was just too much happening. And I didn't have a lot of time to read. Unfortunately, during the week, I literally had like 15 or 20 minutes a day, I think, to read. So I didn't make much progress on the book that I'm reading because, I didn't have much time to read. And then the one day where I did have a little bit more time, I ended up watching Hawk the Slayer. I feel you judging me. Don't judge me. Hawk the Slayer was a masterpiece. Anyway, the book I've been reading, though, is a really good one, and that is this one. This is Lord of a Shattered Land by Howard Andrew Jones. The Chronicles of Hanuvar, Book 1, Hanuvar. A general of a country that has been destroyed and taken into slavery, and his people have been taken into slavery, the ones who survived his country's destruction. And so he's going to go rescue them. And it's a sword and sorcery book with a bunch of different chapters, which are really stories. This is really a collection of stories about Hanuvar, and every story kind of builds on the next. So they're all kind of complete in of themselves, but they do have some ongoing plot points. And it's really, really good, which makes it even worse that I didn't have a lot of time to read this week, because this is the kind of book I would just want to sit there and just read for 2 or 3 hours. It's really good. So this weekend, I probably will finish it. I'll probably finish this up this weekend, because the way things have been going, I end up reading more during the weekend than I do all during the week, just because of the way my life has been this summer. This summer has been really stupid busy for some reason. Too much going on. So I'm reading that. And when I finish that, I will tell you all about it. I'll probably do a video just on that book. Also, I have been getting up very early in the morning so I could read my comic books, because I have to read Superman and Batman every single day of my life. And this week, I finished up this. This is Superman, Batman, Supergirl. So this brought Supergirl back, the real Supergirl back to the DC Universe. This was published in 2005, somewhere around there, and has great artwork by Michael Turner. The story, though. Okay, so the previous volume was really, really good. Roger and I both liked it. Public Enemies, I think was what it was, but this one, not so good actually, which surprises me. Jeff Loeb, I don't know what happened, but this has Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, which was cool because you got to see Michael Turner draw Wonder Woman, and he's really, really good at that. There is a shot of Wonder Woman there at the end as she does something really out of character. And that's one of the problems with this, is that the characters Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, Batman is probably the most like himself, but Superman is just kind of an idiot in this, and Wonder Woman does something that I don't think she would ever do, simply to create drama for the story. You know, sometimes when your writer has characters do stupid things or things that are out of character just to invent some drama, you know, then you might have a problem. And we do have that problem in this book, this graphic novel. And worse, it has one of the cringiest and worst Superman scenes I think I've ever read in a Superman comic book, outside of the whole New 52 fiasco. That was in a class by itself. But there's this, so Darkseid is in this, and that was a good choice to have Darkseid in this, because, you know, you get to Michael Turner drawing Darkseid, but Superman at one point is fighting Darkseid at the end, and seemingly Darkseid has just seemingly killed Supergirl. Of course, nobody reading this comic at the time believed for half a second that Supergirl was killed by Darkseid, because, you know, this whole story is just there to bring Supergirl back. So he's not going to kill her, and there's no chance that Supergirl is dead. And even Superman, it turns out, knows that Supergirl is not dead. I feel fine spoiling this comic. But there's a scene at the end where they battle after Darkseid has seemingly killed Supergirl. And we have this battle which starts on the Kent farm, and I guess the Kent farm must be way out there in the country, because nobody notices this big battle going on between Darkseid and Superman at the Kent farm. Anyway, they have this big battle after Supergirl seems to have died, and the battle takes them up to the sun. They start to fly up to the sun. And Superman decides to have this whole conversation with Darkseid while they're battling. I will read it to you just so because it's so cringy and awful. Why should I be the only one who suffered? "You know nothing about a glorious life, Darkseid. There are so many things she'll never experience because of you," because, you know, Supergirl is supposed to be dead. "The simple joy of apple pie with ice cream. Riding in a convertible on a warm summer night. A home run whacked way out past center field. The crunch of new fallen snow under her feet." He's saying all this to Darkseid, the super evil Darkseid, who doesn't care. "The magic of the movies. Flickering images in a dark theater. The smell of popcorn. Music. How a song can take you back to the first time you heard it. Being asked to the prom. Dancing slow and close." By now, you probably just want to throw up, like I did. "The thrill of her first kiss." He just keeps going on. "The heartbreak of ending her first love affair. Sunday dinner with family. The security of going home." And at this point, Darkseid's like, "Enough! Enough! I can't take it anymore." And none of us can take any more either. Was Jeff Loeb high? Was he on drugs when he wrote this scene? For one thing, we had to suffer through that monologue. For another, Superman's telling Darkseid all this in outer space. They're in space. And he's saying, I don't care what superpowers Superman has. He can't talk in space. Nobody can talk in space. There's no sound in space. So this kind of sucked, actually, but the artwork is really good. The artwork is really good. But otherwise, a pretty big disappointment. So I moved on to something I knew would be good, which is the Golden Age Superman Volume 2. Yes, more Golden Age adventures of Superman. I'm not super thrilled with the cover. For some reason, they commissioned new crappy cover art instead of using, some of the old Golden Age art, which they already had and could have just used for free. Instead, they made this crappy cover. I'm not a fan of this particular one. But the book is really good, so I'm reading that right now. Continuing to read Batman, the Silver Age Omnibus. It's awesome. I've also read a little teensy bit of this, which is 80 Years of the King of the Seven Seas, Aquaman. So I've been reading this. I haven't gotten too far in it just because I haven't had much time to read this. One reason I haven't had much time to read that is because last weekend I spent, and this is one of the reasons I haven't gotten very far in this book either, is because last weekend I spent pretty much all weekend reading this. Showcase Presents Enemy Ace, because I was reading this for Epic Comic Book Wednesday, and I wanted to finish it in time for Epic Comic Book Wednesday because this month is BookTube at War, and I wanted to do an Epic Comic Book Wednesday about a war comic, and this is fantastic. And I read the whole thing, and it's 500 and something pages. And I'm slow at reading comics because I kind of linger on the artwork, you know, and this has Joe Kubert artwork. This is great. Anyway, I expected to make a video about this for Epic Comic Book Wednesday, and so I read the whole thing and then didn't make Epic Comic Book Wednesday because I had no time the night before to make a video. I had no time. So I will be doing an Epic Comic Book Wednesday this week, you know, if everything goes well, about this. It's so good. This is so good. One of the best war comics ever. And yeah, so I'll be talking about this. Missed BookTube at War. And so it's edging into Garb August because Garb August is coming. And for Garb August, well, the first thing I've got to read is not for Garb August, although it sort of can qualify, which is Gladiator by Philip Wiley, which is a book that, by all accounts, influenced the creation of Superman. This was a book written about a guy with superpowers, published in 1930. Really looking forward to reading this, so I'm going to be reading this as soon as I'm done with the book I'm reading right now. Then I'll jump right on this. But then we're moving into Garb August, which has all of these theme weeks. And my problem is I'm a host of Garb August, actually, so I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm just going to not follow the rules of Garb August. I'm not following the rules. So every week there's a different theme. And I'm going into Garb August not feeling like reading certain things. Like Men's Adventure, which I often enjoy, I'm not feeling it going into Garb August. And that's the first week. I'm definitely not going to be reading a category romance. Roger, I would rather die, I think, than read a category romance. Nothing against romance. I mean, I know it's the most popular genre ever. I'm pretty sure. And, you know, I have nothing against it. I just hate reading it. I've actually tried to read romance books, and they just make me want to jump off a bridge. So I won't be doing that. The only things I'm really feeling are Paperbacks from Hell and the novelizations. Those are the only two categories that I'm really feeling like reading. And so I'm just going to read that stuff. The novelizations and the Paperbacks from Hell. And I'm just going to completely redo all of my plans probably for that stuff. I'll add some Paperbacks from Hell and read more novelizations. So I'm going into Garb August reading this. This is Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is a copy that came out. I wish I had an original copy of this, like the first printing of this. That was really cool. This was a reprint that came out when some movie called Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I don't know why this came out for that, because it couldn't have been an Indiana Jones movie, right? Because there were only 3 Indiana Jones movies. There were only 3 Indiana Jones movies. If they had made more than that, they might have sucked. Thank goodness they stopped at 3. So this was reprinted. This is a reprint, and at least it's a trade paperback. Excuse me. a mass market trade, a mass market paperback. At least it's a mass market, which, that is the proper format for a novelization. So, going to be reading this probably to start off Garbogust, and then, I forgot to mention this weekend, before that Garbogust thing, I'm going to be reading this. This is Astounding Science Fiction. This is the July issue from 1951. Reading every issue from 1951, 1 month at a time, and this is July's, and I waited till the very end of the month to read it, but I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this tomorrow. So, Astounding Science Fiction. And on the back, you see that the Shadow was still on the radio in 1951. It's an advertisement for the Shadow radio show. And this cover is really nice, too. A lot of really nice covers for these old Astoundings, so I'm going to be reading that tomorrow. But the thing I'm going to be reading for Garbogust after this is I'm just going to be jumping right into this, Blackwater by Michael McDowell, who wrote paperback original horror novels back in the 80s. So he wrote Paperbacks from Hell, just paperbacks from hell that were of extremely high quality. And he wrote a series of novels, or novelettes, paperbacks, that all formed this one novel. And I think it actually is all one book. It was just published in a serial format. So I will be reading this because I've been wanting to read this forever. So I'm probably, by breaking the rules, I'll be reading that during the first week of Garbogust, right after this, which should take 5 minutes because it's very short. I did get a couple of things in the mail, so let's talk about the things I got in the mail. Comic books, of course. I get comic books in the mail. And because, that whole 500 book challenge thing doesn't count for comics. One thing I got was another one of these 80-year collections of DC characters. This is Wonder Woman 80 Years of the Amazon Warrior. The only one of these I'm missing now, I believe, is the Green Lantern one. For some reason, I haven't been able to find that. So I'm still looking for the Green Lantern volume of 80 years special. But I got the Wonder Woman one, and I got it cheap too. I think I got this for like $10, which is nice for a hardcover that it was still wrapped in its plastic. It's never been read. And it's got the cool, I know she was unpopular, but it's got the kind of the cool Wonder Woman from, I think, the 70s when she wasn't in her Wonder Woman outfit. She was just out doing karate and stuff like that. So it's got that Wonder Woman in here, and it's got the traditional Wonder Woman in here, having adventures. So, I'll be reading this at some point after I finish the Aquaman volume. So that was kind of cool. Got that. I got this other kind of cool thing. This is Dracula. Dracula, adapted from the novel by Roy Thomas and Dick Giordano. So back in the 70s, there was a line of black and white magazines from Marvel Comics. And this is at the time when Tomb of Dracula was a very popular comic book. And there was a black and white magazine called Dracula Lives. Dracula Lives. And it was really cool. It had a bunch of Dracula stories in it in black and white from all different points in Dracula's horrific, nightmarish career of horror. And Roy Thomas decided, you know what? We should adapt the original novel, which is something they didn't do. We should adapt the original novel of Dracula, and we'll try to make it the closest adaptation that we can manage. And so they started it, and they started publishing it, but Dracula Lives was canceled before they finished it. And actually, this adaptation was never finished until years and years and years later, when Roy Thomas and Dick Giordano got together and finished it. And so this is the finished product. And in the beginning, it's all been colorized. So they put color into it. Originally, it was all black and white. And so the earlier stuff is all from the magazine, Dracula Lives. And the later stuff was printed much later, and you can tell the panels are larger. It's all a little different. And now Dick Giordano is probably nobody's idea of like the greatest comic book artist in the world, but he does a good job on this, and I really like his Lucy vampire. She's very, very creepy and horrific. And so yeah, I got this. This is cool. I had this at one point, but I gave it away for some reason, and I always intended to get it back, and so now I've got it back. So that's cool. And to finish out, I did get well, I got one Epic Collection, and I got this Epic Collection, but I don't know whether I showed this one or not. This is Thor: Hell on Earth. I saw this sitting on the shelf, and I'm like, did I show this when I got it? I might have forgotten, because it was 1990s Thor, which was a bad time for Thor. 1995 going, not the best time for Thor. And in fact, this is volume 22, 1994 to 1995. Not too much longer after this. In fact, the next Epic Collection is the last Epic Collection of the original run of Thor. The original run of Thor was canceled in, I think it was either 95 or 96, whenever the Heroes Reborn nonsense happened at Marvel. So this was towards the end of Thor, this Epic Collection. But it's an Epic Collection. I've got to get them all, right? Now this one, though, I'm really excited about. This is SpiderMan. SpiderMan or Spider Clone. This is volume 9. This has stories from 1975 to 1977. And these, some of the issues in this are the very first issues of Spider-Man that I ever read. This was when I was just a little kid. I was five years old when I was 4 years old when this volume started, and 6 years old when the last issues of this came out in this Epic Collection. And I had some of those issues. And so these are some of the earliest Spider-Man stories I ever read are in this volume, and I don't think I've read them since. So it's really cool and exciting to get this. Volume 9 of The Amazing Spider-Man in the Epic Collections. So yeah, this is really cool. Happy to get this. I'll put this with my gazillion other Epic Collections, which are crowding out everything else in my hallway. But it's cool, and I think that's all I have to say this week. Wasn't that adventurous? It was full of adventure, Roger. He thinks it was. Anyway, guys, I'll shut up now, and I will catch you next time.